So it's just down at Tractor Supply getting some wire fence for the garden. Decided to pick up a new pulley for this motor because the old one is just too wide. It's one of these ones that's supposed to be adjustable, an old one. You can see it has threads in there, but you can tell with all the corrosion and the paint that I tried as hard as I possibly could, but that thing just would not budge. The best I could do is it would spin in the vise, as you can see there. So here's a more appropriate fit. It's kind of weird too. It came with two set screws. The wrench fits in there fine, and the other one, the wrench won't fit, so I had to use the set screw off of the old pulley. Chinese, I guess. What are you going to do? This OTC front end service set I picked up's really come in handy. This is the second time I've used this to pull pulleys off of this concrete mixer. Using this guy right here. Well, curiosity killed the cat. I just had to take this off to see what was in there. There's a pile of rust. Most of it laying on the floor now. Looks like mostly the back of this plate that's decaying. Looks like the wires are alright, so I don't want to get into this mess. I think I'm just going to go ahead and scrape that rust out of there and redo these holes and maybe make a new back plate there. Get a new rubber gasket and put this puppy back together. Can't leave long enough alone. Well, tried to clean this plate up, but it's already busting through. A couple holes there already, so just going to go ahead and cut a new one out of this electrical box cover here. Alright, well, the situation's going from bad to worse. I was unsoldering the capacitor here, and I noticed that this wire nut was just hanging there all by itself. And sure enough, the wire that goes in that is inside the engine housing there, so I don't know what's going to happen here. If I can get this thing apart and back together, or just time to buy a new motor. This not working out the way we planned here. Well, to get this housing apart, I'm going to have to take this guy off. Hopefully this set screw will come out. I'm glad I had all this paint on here now. Just to get to these screws so they don't turn when I turn the nuts on the opposite end. And then God knows what I'm going to find inside of this thing. So half of me says give it up, buy a new one at Harbor Freight. The other half says we're in this far, you got to keep going, man. So let's keep going for now. Well, this was a bloody fight, let me tell you. Of course, this wouldn't come off because it's seized on there pretty damn good, so I put the puller on there. Ended up breaking this piece. I mean, I made a little notch here so I could get access to the screws, so that worked out alright. Except some of the screws were so boogered up on the ends, I had to cut the ends off, so if I do save this thing, I'll have to see if I can find 4 super length screws here. This probably won't be a problem. Well, this might be a little more bent than it was. Anyway, you can see in there, there's a little wire. Looks like they're both wire nutted, so I'm guessing at one time they're about the right length. Somebody must have somehow cut them off on the casing there. I don't know how you get super little mini fingers in there to wire nut that thing back together. Given this, it's not bad in there, so I don't know. Given the situation with this thing right now, I have to go and price one out on Harbor Freight. I think the low RPMs were down around $100. I don't know if they'll take the coupons or not, but maybe it'd be better just to go that route instead of putting another 2 hours into this thing and running over town looking for long screws. And I still have to solder that capacitor back in. Doesn't look too bad in there. It looks pretty clean. I can get access to these wires. I'm just going to go ahead and put some splice connectors on here so to worry about those wire nuts coming off again. Rotor doesn't look too bad. Put a little bit of oil on this bearing and it doesn't squeak like it used to. So, who knows if it'll last. Alrighty, got some new wires here. Let's go ahead and see if we can get these puppies put on here. If this thing ever works again, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be impressed. Alright, so we got these 2 wires crimp spliced. Got some cable ties on both sides there so this puppy can't pull. And let's put it back together. Well, it wasn't the capacitor after all, just a wire in there. Now I gotta see if I can get this thing back together. It looks like I might have bent that fan a little bit. It's vibrating more than it used to be. Alright, so here's the new capacitor. I know we found out the original capacitor was alright. It was just a wire inside the engine, the motor that had been apparently cut before and wired knotted back together, and then that came loose when we took the whole thing apart to paint it. So in any regard, got this working. So I tried to bend the terminals that were on here so that these quick connects would fit inside the little case here. And of course, as soon as I did that, they snapped off with no resistance whatsoever. So I won't call it an expensive lesson because I'd already ordered a capacitor anyway, so we'll know better. And these quick connects are not going to work for this guy. I'm going to have to go ahead and solder those on there. So I have to wait till I get a new soldering iron since mine is kaput. Also, I haven't got my switch from China yet, but I had this old 240 volt switch, 2-pole switch sitting around from a water heater installation, so I think it's 30 amps, so we're just using one leg obviously, but that works fine. And there she is, spinning just like new. Went ahead and made a new cover plate for there. We got some rubber packing, sheet packing for plumbing, and used that to make a gasket. I couldn't get this old plate off because the screw was so rusted, so I had to drill it out, and that didn't go too well. We ended up with some bigger holes than we should have had, but it's on there now anyway. Hopefully we have to take it apart again. Plus I cut this old connector off since it wasn't really holding the wire tight. Put this new Romex connector on there. Put some silicone in there to make that a little more watertight than it was. Alright, you ready for the big reveal? Here we go. Throw the switch. Ta-da! So here's more changing since the last time. I went ahead and put this little cable in here so when you take your pin out, it's not going to get lost. Nothing more than heavy-duty picture wire and hanging pictures on your wall in the house. These are just little ground clamp cables that you use in electrical boxes when you're doing electrical work in the house. You get this just about anywhere. Nice little addition. How many times do you lose these kinds of things? Also put this bolt down here. It was an existing hole, but now we have two. Wrap the cord around. Guess I need to take this one out. And of course I repainted this. That's a John Deere yellow. They didn't have this Rust-Oleum yellow. I thought the lighter shade would work alright. Actually the white looked the best. I should have kept it like that. Not sure what I was thinking there. And we just got the cap taped down for now until I get my new soldering iron so I can solder that on there and put it inside the little housing. So I got a 2.5-inch pulley. The only problem is when you step down to a 2.5-inch pulley from a 3 or 3.5, which is what I had before, they changed the belt profile from a 5L or 5/8 inch wide down to a 4/3L, which is a 1/2 or 3/8 inch wide, so it doesn't quite fit in there perfectly. But on the other hand, with this pulley on there, it now spins at exactly 30 revolutions per minute, the concrete mixer. So okay, so we stepped down to a 1/2 inch wide belt. Had to go down an inch shorter from 59 to 58 inches. Got a good fit on there now. Well, I finally discovered by using my little air chisel I could chip out all that old concrete that had been stuck in here over the years. Did a pretty decent job. Using a grinder or a water wheel and a grinder is just pretty much a waste of time. Got some of the big stuff off using a hammer, but then I took some liquid nails I'd laying around in a tube, filled up all these gaps so the water doesn't leak out when you're mixing concrete. When I was pounding away in here, some of them concrete came out of them and you could see sunlight. They would have filled up eventually, but I'd had some water and concrete mixing out the first couple of times. Anyway, that liquid nails gets pretty hard, should do the trick. I think I'm going to go ahead and use that leftover truck bed coating I have just to coat this. Keep it from rusting when I'm not using it. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to clean it next time so that the concrete doesn't stick to all that rough, rusted material there. Alright, so I got the inside of this cleaned up a little bit and sprayed with that, what I had left over, that truck bed liner, so we'll see if this makes any difference next time I use it, as far as getting it clean when we're finished. Hopefully it will. If not, no big deal. Well, as I may or may not mention already, I'm still waiting for my soldering iron to come so I can solder that capacitor in and then put the little housing over top of it so it's not just taped on the outside like that. And I'm still waiting for my fancy on-off waterproof switch from China to come. Other than that, this baby's pretty much wrapped up for right now, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please post them below.